Collective and
Collin.
and we are ready to bring you some double toil and trouble, fire burn and cauldron bubble.
Yeah, Toil and Trouble is the episode's name, number 2 for Ahsoka here, and yeah, it's a reference to the three witches from Shakespeare's Macbeth,
Mm-hmm.
and that's what they say when they're over the cauldron doing their witchy stuff, which we'll get into. This episode is pretty witch heavy towards the end.
Yeah, it's pretty sweet.
Yeah. Yep.
So yeah, without further ado, let's start into this first part here.
So Sabine lives. Whoa!
What?
Yeah. So fade from white. We get Ahsoka standing over the window, with Yu Yang and like a doctor droid basically in the room, a nurse droid, and Sabine laying on the bed, and Sabine's having these these nightmares basically with Ezra basically seeming like he's reaching through the Force, maybe, because it seems a little more than dreams.
Yeah, it's a little bit more intense, which was really cool to see, because everybody has their like we've seen it before. People get their visions through dreams or whatever, and you actually kind of see this throughout just fantasy stories and in general.
You see it with
across
yeah, exactly. Like another character that's doing it is Balon later. So we see this even in continuity with Star Wars.
Well, I mean, even think about Anakin having his visions in the prequel trilogy, where he sees his mom getting hurt and killed and everything like that, and then she's actually still alive, which was good, but then he slaughters all the women and children too.
And because of Sabine's connection with Ezra, I think she would have maybe a more of a fierce connection with the Force.
Right. Well, and then we even just see a direct connection that we saw in the sequel trilogy with, Kylo and Rey as well. Yeah. So having some form of connection that way. And the other thing that kind of you always see that is involved with this is that there's almost an openness in some ways to it. And so that's why it worked with Rey and Kylo, or there's some sort of major love or feeling or whatever, which is what Anakin had with his mother,
right?
And then what you see here, there's some sort of deep connection, whether it be a familia thing or whether it just be a true love friendship thing, which is what Sabine and Ezra have here.
So the connection seems super deep, and Ahsoka kind of feels it, and she kind of wakes her up out of it, and asks her what's going on, and Sabine kind of gives her a rundown of her dream she was having, and it was basically saying that there's another galaxy out there, and there's a path leading to it. So then Ahsoka is very interested, it seems in this.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, because to be fair, Ahsoka hasn't hidden it. She's looking for Thrawn.
For sure.
That, I mean,
but she put more stock into a dream than normal. I feel like.
Well, I mean, dude, it's got to be that. Oh, maybe she's ready.
Right.
Maybe we're ready here. But Sabine also explains to Ahsoka as well that despite me cracking the map and seeing this other galaxy, she's not really entirely sure, but she did see what she assumes is another galaxy and a pathway there. She's those HK droids destroyed everything.
Exactly.
It's all gone.
So back to the first episode, that the map's stolen now.
Yeah.
And Sabine's records of anything were destroyed by the HK droids. So yeah, that's where we're at, and then we cut to Balin and Shin. Yeah. We're on this beautiful planet. This ancient looking red forests everywhere on it. It looks kind of like a Stonehenge type of ancient
it's this coastal forest. Yeah. So it's this cold, you see the beautiful red forest as you were talking about, but then there is this what would you call it, almost like a peak, almost like a lighthouse.
No, it's on a steep cliff, and there's this. There's there's an ocean underneath.
There's the Stonehenge structure that you're talking about and stuff there, but that also it almost feels like a lighthouse, and we'll get into that.
For sure.
Think about the lighthouse thing, because it totally is one.
It seems important, any but it does seem like a map of sorts, right? Stonehenge seems like a map of the stars almost. But anyway, so they kind of put the map, the orb, into the center of this thing, and kind of figure out quickly that this is an important place. this is a reflex point. This is a place of basically travel.
Yeah. Well, because the other hint. So, like, here's the other thing when we were watching this. In episode 2, right here, during this Balon stuff, we come to find out we're on the planet Cetos. Mm-hmm. So, like, we don't need to bury the lead there.
Right.
But, so we're on Cetos, and here we also see Purgo.
Yep.
Again.
Oh, yeah, when he's looking off into the distance, you hear a little bit.
Well, right before we cut away.
If you blink, you miss it. But like they're in the clouds.
You see the shadow of the Purgo in the clouds. Similar to, like, what we... Was it Mandalorian season 3 where we got the Purgo in like episode 1 or 2 or something of that when they were
they're in the hyperdrive, hyperspace traveling.
Yeah.
But yeah, then so we see he's kind of looking up and realizes, so he calls Morgan Elsbeth and tells her that this is the spot. We got it. We found it. Calls to her, tells her to come, and that's when we cut to Ahsoka. Back at Lothal
and Sabine's place. Sabine's still in the hospital,
right.
But Ahsoka's like, you know what? I'm gonna go back to your place and just see, because you know what? We got the Force echo that she had in like episode 1.
Right. This one was a little different. I feel like this one was more like it felt like definitely, but it's very very much like she felt the presence of something that happened, and she kind of just basically replayed the battle between.
And you start hearing it too, which was unlike in the first episode where you just kind of hear these unannounced like whispers and stuff.
Exactly.
Like you clearly hear the battle of like.
That's why it felt a little different than an echo. It felt like a connection deeper because of Sabine. Anyway, so they have this moment. She has this moment. She's like alone with. She's walking outside that comms tower that Sabine lives at. And then she goes inside, and there's a moment where she has with the cat and stuff. Mm-hmm. But then she goes inside, and she's looking around, and she sees the hologram of Ezra. And then all of a sudden, the cat kind of looks at her funny. Mm-hmm. And she kind of uses that moment. She has a smirk on her face, like, oh yeah, uses that moment, cuts that droid's head off real quick.
Yeah.
Like, it almost seemed like she was planning on it. You know what I mean? She was hoping for that droid to be there. Because Sabine did mention...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and then, but Ahsoka even says, "I hope you'd still be here."
Yeah.
Like, like right before we leave, and then we get back to the hospital, and and we see Sabine, and Ahsoka has the head of the droid, there, and gives it to Sabine.
Yeah.
And Sabine explains what you can do with this decapitated head droid.
Yeah, exactly. She's like, you kind of did it perfect. So it's like, I know.
Yeah, and it was like, so if you didn't fry these things, like, we can access the memory core. And then Hugh Yang's like, oh, and then we can work back and figure out like where it came from. He's like, very clever, Sabine.
Exactly.
And like I love it. I like clever girl. Like,
and then he starts. So anyway, Sabine's kind of tinkering with it, and he finds out that it could explode, and Hugh Yang starts freaking out a little. He's like the most freaking out of anyone. And Harris on the hologram here. Very much. But way. He's like very aware of his the imminent doom that could happen.
Well, because they have the gauge too that's like starts beeping.
It starts beeping super hard, and Hera's like, chill out, and he's like, you're a hologram, you know what I mean? You chill out.
You chill out, you're not here.
You're not actually here. So so that moment happens. He kind of cuts it off, but she gets it in time. Mm-hmm. He does freak out though, and it's pretty funny.
That freak out is so awesome.
So this is when they realize that it's from
Corellia,
yeah, which is a shipyard planet we saw in Solo, which is Han Solo's home planet. So we're gonna go to that place, and that's cool. That's a cool connection.
It really is.
Yeah.
And like, so like when you hear Corellia and you hear all of this, like naturally you think of Emilia Clarke's a character who I can't actually recall her name right now, but I'm thinking of Crimson Dawn, which is also another callback to like Darth Maul and everything, and Korra.
That's it.
So I just naturally was thinking of this, like when I kind of heard Corellia, the Imperialness, like that's still going there, like they're still doing these operations and stuff.
It's basically always a shipyard. It's why Han Solo never wants to go back. It's kind of just like a junk, like it's like I hate to say this, Staten Island is perceived to be basically. But yeah, so they have to go there, and Ahsoka's like, you're not coming with me, Sabine, you gotta heal up.
Yeah.
And this is kind of like when Hera has a moment alone with Sabine. Yeah. And she's like, why don't you go back with Ahsoka? Why don't you two hook up?
Yeah.
Why don't you two master apprentice this stuff again? And Sabine's like, I don't know. I don't think she wants me. She left me. Like, I don't know. But at the same time, like, it's understandable. What happened with Ahsoka's master's pretty crazy. So I don't think she's was really ready.
Right.
To
and
have
like, and
just
Sabine,
as much as Sabine wasn't probably ready.
And Sabine's also like, but you know, like the first thing that we do, like when she is here, goes completely sideways,
Yeah, exactly.
and like so, like you know.
Yeah, did she even come? If you didn't tell her, would she have come here?
Like would she have come here? Like, am I even like worth that much to her? After this conversation, we head back to Cetos and the Red Forest.
Yeah.
And
she arrives on that cool golden starship that she has. It's super cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's very unique to her.
Yeah.
I've never seen something like it in the.
But Baylan shows her like, hey, you know, like here's the orb. It's sitting here. I feel like this is a reflex point based on like.
And she realizes the importance pretty quickly.
And
like she uses like the magic, she realizes real quickly. Oh, this is how we get thrown back.
But the big thing for us as well, or at least for me, like seeing it is that Baylan 100% is like, this was not built by Jedi.
Right.
Like. So
this
like,
was ancient.
Yeah.
This is before.
Like
the
Jedi, the Jedi are
Sith,
ancient,
but
like,
not as ancient.
But this is not built
there
by
were whole
them.
other races that used the Force before Jedi even existed.
Exactly.
So yeah, we'll get into that in other episodes probably. But so they're chilling on there, and Morgan's telling them about this place, and Baylan's like, that was like myths we learned in school.
And fairy tales.
Yeah, that was like a fairy tale we learned in the Jedi Academy. Like, is this real? And like that's when his wheels start turning.
Yeah.
And he starts realizing that he's got that there's something going on.
But Morgan's response though to where he was like, these are based on stories and fairy tales,
right.
And she's like, stories based on truth.
Right.
And like she just like coldly says stories based on truth. Oh man, like
he's
that
still
was great.
he's still like the pathway's clouded, you know. He's not ready. Like, and he's got a different sense of the Force. He seems to have like be able to really tap into it at times. And like it'll come back up later, but he's like, it's clouded, and she's like, don't Thrawn calls to me.
Yeah.
So again, just like Sabine, it's she's getting these calls from Thrawn. She seems to be getting the calls from Ezra.
Yeah.
And there's just a cool parallel there too.
And so as we're going through this, Morgan's like, hey, Ion's on its way. We've got to, make sure everything is ready for its arrival and that everything goes swimmingly. Baylan's like, all right, Merrick, he's got that, no problem. We'll send him off to Corellia.
Right. Send your little apprentice too. She basically like kind of patronizes Shin.
Yeah, a little bit. Like, it's pretty funny.
Tell her Baylan, you tell her where to go, basically.
You tell her to go and do this.
This is when Shin and Baylan have a little back and forth too, when she's like, Master, what happens when we find Thrawn? Like, and for some war, he says.
Yeah.
And for others, a new beginning, which like is very telling of what he's got different plans than even Morgan here. Right. And Shin responds like, and for us, and he's like, power such as you never dreamed of. But because she seems to be, I think it's less the power for him and more just she seems to thrive on that. And to be honest, he does too. He seems to thrive on just pure, he wants something to end the war.
Yeah.
More than Morgan, who seems to want the war to continue through Thrawn. Right.
And so with these new standing orders from Baylan and stuff, we head to Corellia.
Yeah. So we're back with Ahsoka and Hera. Mm-hmm. And they meet up with this little Weasley guy who from the beginning is like, his name's Regional Supervisor Min Weaver. It sounds like a weasel name. Yeah. And it's played by Peter Jacobson. Who's Peter
J, and like he just has the history of like being that of like a character actor of being like that slimy swarmy guy. He's not always like necessarily like a straight out villain, but he's always like the less savory person in like said movie. Right. And like in like whatever he shows up in, he's usually the less savory.
Next to him is this like RA7 protocol droid. That's pretty cool. Yeah. I like the droids that are in this portion.
Yeah.
But they're kind of questioning Weaver from the beginning, like, what's going on here? And he's like, I'm a businessman.
I've got investors.
It's
and
not
like,
about
and like
it's
the
not
board
about
of
New
directors.
Republic Empire. It's about money. And they're just kind of.
He also drops the line on them, the knowledge on them, that there are still Imperials in every line, in every top to bottom part of this New Republic.
Yeah.
And Hera is like,
wait, what?
Is like, I think I'm gonna be sick. Squeeze me, baking powder. What?
I mean, clearly, like New Republic hasn't ironed out the kinks. They've like clearly just left a lot of security flaws, because this is a facility where they take apart old Imperial ships and
Star Destroyers,
turn them into something new, and we'll learn about that a little bit later. But right now, they're on a boat, kind of traveling through the area, and he's kind of giving them the rundown, and they're like, this guy's not.
He's giving them the rundown runaround.
Yeah, exactly.
If you guys know, if you're picking up,
he's been very businessman.
Like he has been very businessman. Like he's giving them information, but nothing of substance. And like he's being very omissive, but also very forthcoming. And he has like a good banter to him. Almost like this ain't his first rodeo of being questioned by like New Republic people about what's going on here.
But I think you could tell he's a little scared because there's a Jedi and a general in front of him. Anyway, so this is when Hera also is kind of like, what's up? Why don't you do Sabine? What's going on here? It's back to Ahsoka.
Yeah.
And Ahsoka's like, didn't work out. She's like, well, why not? What happened? She's like, well, how do you know when someone's ready? Because Ahsoka kept claiming she's not ready, and she's like, well, you know, and so do they. So that kind of gives credence to the point that, like, I think they both weren't ready for each other at that point in time.
And that last thing of like what Ahsoka said, but it's so true, and it's so like it really shows the growth of like Ahsoka of being like, I won't train Grogu, and then also though when somebody is ready. Like Ahsoka, and like I pull up the Grogu thing because obviously
that's another reason why she wasn't the one to train him.
Right, but almost even think about it, if she was like, oh yeah, I'll take on Grogu, I'll train you, buddy, no problem. Like then she wouldn't be here right now for like Sabine and stuff.
Exactly. And he was going to go through his own path no matter what.
Oh yeah,
he was always going to choose Mando.
Yeah, he was always going to choose Mando dad. Yeah. He was always going to choose his dad. But this is all awesome. Yeah. And like I just love it. Like I love Hera. I love Mary Elizabeth Winstead. Like she's one of my favorite things about this. Like there's Baylan Skoll, who like Ray Stevenson, R.I.P. We love you so much. You gave a killer performance during this. But like my second favorite person right now is Mary Elizabeth Winstead.
Wow.
She's like Hera. But like that's also not to say that Ahsoka isn't it isn't good or cool or anything. Like I love Ahsoka just
for
as
a
much.
show that's called Ahsoka. It's very much just Rebels season 6 or season 5 or whatever it is.
Exactly.
It's very just much a continuation because she's not necessarily the main character in every episode.
No, she's not.
And like, she takes a backseat a lot, and that's kind of cool too. I think.
Well, because they're telling a full world story here, which is interesting. Right. And they also, Dave Filoni and stuff here, there's an expectation to maybe not have seen all of either Clone Wars or Rebels, but to at least be familiar.
Yeah, and to have watched like key episodes, key points.
Even if
watched a few YouTube updates, whatever. Yeah, exactly. He does expect a little homework.
Like there's a little bit of that here, but like.
He also explains it enough for this as a show.
Yeah, for this to all make sense and be A-okay and like for you to all like follow it and stuff. Right. So I just love it.
Yeah, so this is when we go back to the hospital.
Sabine's
with Hugh Yang, and this is when like Hugh Yang has really good like sense of humor in this scene. And I really love how he just keeps telling her that she's kind of the worst.
Yeah. Like...
He's not sugarcoated for
Well, but, like, Hugh Yang notices the change in the lightsaber. Right. And then is like, have you kept up with training?
Right.
Do you think I have? And he's like, well...
He's like, I don't know, you were always kind of the worst anyway.
Yeah.
But this is also, he kind of reassures her to the point that she's like, oh, that's Ezra's lightsaber. He's like, no, Ezra gave it to you, and I see you have done some modifications.
You've altered this. So it's yours.
I think it's yours, which is also to say like Ezra's not going to get it back if we see him again. Like it's also a good point to be like, no, this is hers. No, this is Sabine's lightsaber. Right. And that's a pretty cool moment because it shows that even though Yu Yang isn't used to her type of Jedi, quote unquote, but it is he's open to it. He's clearly like, no, why aren't you doing this? You're kind of wasting your own time. Mm-hmm. You're not wasting anyone else's time.
He literally says, the only time you are wasting is your own.
Right.
God effing damn it, Steven, motherfucker, damn it, I love him. He's so good. That line, but like that line hits so good. The only time you're wasting is your own.
Yeah, and don't worry about other people's time. Ahsoka's time, this is my time. Yeah. Worry about wasting your own time. And this kind of, you could tell this hits Sabine too. Like
it does, but he is really savage when he's like, "You have the worst aptitude in the Force that I've ever seen out of all of the Jedi that I've trained for 25,000 years or something."
Yeah, he's been around Padawans. But to be fair, the Jedi Order would never have trained someone like Sabine. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of an interesting new road that Star Wars is taking.
And that's also why...
Which I think's more interesting.
Which is like, why that savage line of the aptitude, but then him also being like, the only time you're wasting is your own, is also so resonant with it, because it doesn't matter that you weren't trained like Ahsoka originally was, or like any other Jedi that Hu Wang is. Yeah. Like you can do your own way and find your own path. That's kind of the beauty of having a master and apprentice relationship.
And you don't listen to me anyway, so this is happening.
Yeah.
So then we go back to Hera and Ahsoka with the...
We're in the control center in Corellia.
Which is a cool red room, basically, with these red C-3PO looking things. They're really cool looking.
Dude, they're the amount of like, this is Sith in plain sight. This is Empire in plain sight. Is like... So
but what's funny is the droid ends up being a bit of a snitch. So anyway,
spoilers a little bit here. If you haven't seen this episode yet,
they're kind of first they talk about Hera's like, what's going on? Like, what are you guys doing with these hyperdrives? All these hyperdrives, and he's like, oh, unauthorized. She's like, I'm a general. Like, how much more?
Well, because he's like, we're dismantling this one, and she's like, oh, how many have you done? We've done 9 other ones already. And then Hera, that's where all of the red lights for Hera, because her being a general and being in the know, she was like,
what are you building with that many hyperdrives?
Yeah, New Republic Defense isn't working on anything that would require that. And that's when he's like, oh, you don't have authority. And she's like, I'm a general, dude. Right. Like, bro, what?
So they kind of move past it for a second, and they're like, well, have you know, like, what kind of droids do you use around here? Asking about the HK droids from before, because that was really
trying to get to them.
Trying to get to, like, how are these, because they knew Morgan Elsbeth used them back in the day, and, like, where are they coming from now, basically? And they ask him about him, and he gets a little weird. And this is when, like I said, one of the red...
They call the C1 protocol droid. Yeah. He's like, C1, I need you over here for some protocol. But hold on. The one thing before we move on to this is when she goes, when Hera goes, I'm a general. Nothing is classified to me. And like that is one of those, like, if any fans of Arrested Development, that was like that was Maybe's being like, marry me moment of just shutting down all conversation, being like, here's the trump card, bitch. Like
what are you talking about?
Welcome to the party, pal.
So that's when they're like kind of like,
we've got CCLs, we got IW37s, we've got HV7s.
He's naming everything but HK.
We got load lifters, and then Ahsoka's like, no HK droids. And it's
not
like,
even repurposed.
And he's like, assassin droids?
What are you, crazy?
The best part is that he does put his hand up to his chest. Clutches.
He pearl clutches for sure, and he this is kind of when the moment where they know the jig's up, and one of the workers from the background, one of the hidden Sith Imperial, sorry, not Sith.
Yeah.
One of the hidden Imperials in the room kind of stands up and like, for the Empire, and shoots at him. Then everyone gets up, basically. Yeah. Everyone in the room is an ex-Imperial ready to fight.
Yeah, and it's crazy.
Yeah. Well, except for Min, who seems kind of like a scared little...
Oh, yeah, he hides behind the C1.
Yeah.
Yeah, he hides behind the C1 droid and everything.
So this is when, like, Hera and Ahsoka look at each other. Ahsoka, like, Hera's like, yeah, go get it. And Ahsoka jumps out the window. Like, right we go. It's so awesome. She jumps out the window, starts giving chase to the
hyperdrive,
to the ship that's taking the transport ship that's taken off. And this is when she gets interrupted by Marok and the HK droid standing there like, nah, you ain't going nowhere. And
where you going? Nowhere. I got you 3 minutes. Exactly. 3 minutes of playtime.
Yeah, we get a good battle with those two.
It's such a fun fight.
Cut to before that though, we meet Hera's running to her ship, and we meet a character we haven't seen before in live action. Who's the best? We meet Chopper, who's waiting standby, and this is when she takes off and like, let's go. And Chopper's ready.
Whoop, whoop.
And so cut back to Ahsoka fighting them. She takes out the HK droid, and it's pretty sweet battle that she's having with two, Marok, who's like
in the HK.
Yeah, exactly.
Droid, yeah. That's awesome, and it is also like even Hera and Chopper of like their back and forth, which is like something I didn't know during Rebels. Is that Dave Filoni voices Chopper? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
But like in Rebels, it's way more muffed. Yeah. Chopper's like voice is like
he still sounds. He's still like you could still.
I can make out words way more easily. Now it could be the years of like of having already been attuned to like Chopper already, but like I feel like I can understand Chopper way more clearly.
Oh, he was definitely like that was definitely something that a choice they made. But no, his voice was always like a little more than R2D2 or something. Yeah. Like you could always kind of tell what he was saying. But it was always just a little.
It wasn't always like just bleeps and bloops. Yeah, you're right.
So it was kind of cool seeing Chopper there, and so this is when Marok and Ahsoka are kind of facing off, but the ship, Shin's ship, basically Shin and Balin's ship, comes and Marok takes off, but he before that he opens up this double-sided saber,
starts
like
spinning
very
it.
Inquisitor like, starts spinning it because again. If you played any of the video games, like the Second Sisters and like the Inquisitors in those games had the spinning sabers. I think we saw them even in Kenobi. The spinning sabers are very Inquisitor-like. So Marok is definitely an ex-Inquisitor at this point, and it's pretty cool seeing him do that. And he throws it, runs to the ship. Shin's kind of waiting for him on the ramp, and it comes back around. And this is a cool part when Ahsoka just kind of dodges.
She just like turns. That's boss move.
Yeah, exactly.
That is like next tier.
It was kind of a
boss.
Don't look at the explosion moment.
Yes, and that's so great. But hold on, we also got to remember. So Merrick escapes with Shin Hati, and then Chopper and Hera though accomplish their mission of getting the tracker on their ship.
This was awesome because Chopper really uses his you get to see Chopper for who he is, and he like really wants to take down this ship, but best thing he has right now is the tracking device, so he kind of just whips it at him, and he's kind of more agile than R2D2 or something, so he's got these little mechanical arms that he throws and even does the muscles.
It's so awesome. Funny. It's so great. Awesome.
Yeah. If you don't like any other characters in the show, Chopper will do.
Yeah, Chopper's great. He's so funny. He's the best. He's also probably got one of the highest kill counts in the entire Star Wars universe. Like we're talking hundreds of thousands. Yeah, maybe a couple mil. Maybe a couple mil.
I don't know if it's mils, but it's definitely.
But it's good. A couple 100,000.
Yeah, definitely thousands, and he's like definitely known as a war criminal of the Star Wars universe. But. You'd have to call everyone a war criminal then. Like, honestly, you'd have to start calling most of these people war criminals. But he's also been diagnosed by some people with PTSD, which makes sense to me. Which is like he's R2D2 with PTSD.
Yeah, I mean,
he's basically
he's seen some shit for sure.
He's seen some shit. Yeah. I mean, there's a moment in Rebels when he kind of goes. He has like a flashback. Basically, he like can't go. He doesn't like riding on the ships that he crashed on. Like, there's a very PTSD story.
Yeah, yeah. It's actually, like, really great.
And his anger and stuff, all, Anyway, so this is when we go back to... So they got the tracker on the ship, and we're going to follow where that thing went.
Yeah.
Whatever. We know where it is, which is Cetos. Yeah. Which is, but anyway, so they go back to Sabine, and
Sabine's back in Lethal. She's back home. She's out of the hospital. She is
really cool scene.
She's able to go home, and she sees her little kitty cat, and
she grabs all her Mando gear.
Yeah, she grabs the Mando gear.
Which it's cool because you see it all placed out, and one of the details in the end of Rebels was she had this different armor on. Mm-hmm. One of her
shoulder pads
exactly has Purrgil on it now.
Yeah.
So it's like a Purrgil thing on one of her pauldrons, and one's the Rebel sign like usual.
Yep.
And she always changed it up, so it's cool to see that they kept that from the original. And she goes in this room now because she's got her helmet back, and you notice her hair's growing out. That wasn't something she could ever do with a helmet, So she goes in the room kind of thinking over, and she pulls a move which Kanan pulled in Rebels, where he takes the knife and cuts his hair and shaves. Yeah. It's a very samurai move, exactly. So reminiscent of what Kanan also did, and in this moment of accepting
in a lot of ways too, because we haven't seen Kanan here, and they haven't really talked about Kanan here, who in a lot of ways was really Sabine's almost first master before he was truly training Ezra, but then Ezra was no longer his apprentice kind of at some point, because Ezra was so attuned and had so much experience that then Kanan was well, we got the Darksaber here, might as well learn how to use it. Exactly. Again, something led by Hera being show her.
Yeah,
and he was
he was more of a father figure in my opinion. He was mother Hera and Kanan were very much because in the absence of her own parents,
right
towards the end especially. But she kind of found her own family when she left Mandalorian planet, and
Mandalore. Yeah.
So she anyway, so she growing it out, it was a sign of her just not doing anything in her Mandalorian gear for a while. She kind of wipes the dust off, and also we get this is the coolest scene I've seen live action. It was straight from Rebels, straight picked out of Rebels, even the shadows and stuff. It was just so amazing. She's by her painting of the Rebels crew. She's touching Ezra's picture, and Ahsoka comes from behind and is like, "Let's go." In Rebels, she had white. She had a staff. In this, I think Dave Filoni had a timeline change. Basically, he had to for this story to move forward. He had to change something, and in that moment, she's got gray still, which to me shows she's still not 100% ready, but is getting there.
Yeah,
she's definitely getting. She still has a blockage. Is more of the thing. She's ready to take Sabine on. Clearly, she's here.
Yeah,
but she's got some kind of blockage still. She's in this post-war world, and she's trying to take down Thrawn, and she's starting to see her family for what it is.
But we gotta say, what got them there to that awesome scene on Lethal at the memorial was when they were still at Corellia. Hera and her were wrapping up. They were doing their rundown and being like, "Hey, why are these people not loyal to the New Republic?" And they're just straight up greed.
Yeah.
And
they don't have loyalty.
Ahsoka's like, "Hey, or Hera's like, "Hey, when Chop has something, we'll let you know."
Right.
Ahsoka goes back to her ship. And then she has a message waiting from her from Sabine saying, "I'm ready."
Yeah.
And it reflecting of you both know when you're ready to do this, of what Ahsoka was saying. So
Ahsoka sees this and knows. Okay,
and it's like, all right, we're ready.
So she does.
It's not even. It wasn't even that Sabine's ready. It's we're
ready.
Yeah,
which
we're
is
ready
important,
now.
Like we were saying before. But
and that's what makes that memorial scene then so great.
And because she knows she's about to go to war basically to get Ezra back.
Yeah,
she's ready to go to war for.
They're about to do some crazy stuff.
Yeah, so before they're kind of on Ahsoka's ship flying out, about to go to, because they find out that it's from the system. What is it, Denos?
Yeah,
they're from the Denos system, and that it's on this planet. They're hovering above the planet Cetos, and they're so that's where they're going. They're ready to go. But in that moment, she does say Padawan. She calls her a Padawan, and I thought that was a pretty clear moment that that what's going on is the master and apprenticeship has begun again.
And it absolutely when they leave and we get the apprentice and everything, like for sure that is what is back on. But on
basically a kick it. And they go off in a hyperdrive, and then we cut to
Cetos, and we get the last hyperdrive is being placed in the Eye of Sion.
Yeah, super cool scene.
It's super sweet.
Her golden ships on top of it, sitting on top of it.
And they're like, Morgan's like, we're bringing Thrawn back from exile. And the sooner the better. And Morgan's like, this sudden appearance of Ahsoka Tano, Baylan, it has you worried. It has you scared. And he's like, it is. She's got this elusive determination that is very vivid and standing out. And like Morgan kind of like almost does like the step up to Baylan, almost of being like, nothing can prevent our journey.
Right.
And
if it is, you need to stop it.
And which leads Baylan to say, killing Ahsoka Tano will be a shame. Yeah,
exactly. He will, but it doesn't seem like he really wants to. And he kind of points like, there's not a lot of Jedi left. What are we doing? Come on, we have to. And she's like, yeah. And he's like,
And she's like, wow, is that sentiment? Like sentimental like this there? And he's like,
truth.
He's like, sentimental truth.
Yeah, it's just the truth. It's just, it's fact. There's few Jedi left. It's just whatever, sentimental or not, it's just a fact. He's stating it, and it might not make sense to kill all Jedi in his plan for what it is, but that doesn't work with Morgan's plan, and for now, he needs to stay on track. So, yeah, he's ready.
He absolutely is. And this brings us to the end of the episode.
Oh, yeah.
And I gotta say, these first 2 episodes have been sweet. They dropped on the same day as on Disney Plus and whatnot. So, join us next week for episode 3 of Ahsoka. I am JimmE with the Triple C Collective, and
I'm Collin.
And we hope you all stay safe. Thank you for joining us. Please like and subscribe to this video and to our channel. And peace.